So let me show you around the Defender 110. You can see this is the signature. This green color is the signature color. This was the launch color for the Defender, and the white roof is looking extremely good. It nods to the previous Defender's design, and as a result really good looking. We get 20-inch wheels, but the overall size of the tires is impressive at 32 inches diameter. You can see that we get Goodyear Wrangler 80 tires on this. In terms of boot space, well, there's several interesting facets here. You've got this little storage space for knickknacks inside the tailgate, and here we are. This is the boot space that you get. These skylights or windows, whatever you might choose to call them, on the side of the roof, they let in a lot of natural light from the top, so it's a really airy cabin whichever row you're sitting in. Now you may have noticed these two buttons here, and they're actually meant to help lower or raise the car when you're loading it. So if I press this down button here, you can see that the whole car is actually lowering. So it's gone down to access height, and you can see I'll place my finger here, and then you watch, or actually we can see that it's just about till that zip portion there. And let me raise it to the normal height, and you will see how much it goes up by. Okay, so now that portion has gone that far down, so it's a good 3 inches. So you can easily lower the boot by 3 inches if you're loading to help you load stuff. Okay, now coming to the middle row, there is extremely good space on offer here. You've obviously got a small bottle holder. This will not take a full-size bottle, probably just a 500 ml at best. And then if you look at the legroom here, it is actually fantastic. It is really good. You've got a nice panoramic sunroof here, and most SUVs, they are not efficiently designed inside, but not so with the Defender. You get nice grab handles here, using which you can get inside. So similar to loading the boot, you can actually lower the height of the vehicle to make getting in and out easier. So as you can see, everything reeks of really good quality in here. And what I especially like is the design. So these air vents look like nothing else. This center console looks like nothing else on any other car, and same for the dashboard, which we'll come to in a bit. But as you can see here, you've got your climate controls there. There is almost no center tunnel, even though this is a proper 4x4 with low range. So there is plenty of space in this cabin. So I'm 5'11", nearly 6 feet tall, and the driving seat is adjusted for my driving position, and there's still plenty of space here. You've also got a net here to keep stuff. So overall, a really nice cabin, and the seats themselves are quite comfortable. So you can't actually move the seats back and forward, but there is a way to change the recline angle slightly. It's actually meant more to fold the seats to create a flat load bay right there. Now coming to the front, you have a nice door pocket here, which can take quite large bottles. And again, the door pad looks like nothing else. You have these exposed Allen key screws here, and that makes it and gives it that rugged look. And again, everywhere you see, you'll get grab handles. You can grab this to get in, and everything exudes quality in here, including the steering wheel, which is of a larger diameter than usual. Okay, climbing into the seat. So there we are, and as you can see, that's the steering wheel. It is larger than usual, but I really like the rough texture on this steering bits here. Again, look at the design. These air vents look like nothing else on the roads today. Then you have this leather padding on this dash, which becomes a grab handle for the passenger. So once again, it covers utility as well as aesthetics. And you've got a large shelf there. You can put all sorts of knickknacks if you don't mind them rolling around if you're driving enthusiastically. You have a large touch screen here, as well as a screen for the instrument cluster. And then you've got a rather unconventional gear stick here. So you have to press P to engage the electric handbrake, and when you're exiting out from the D mode, and you obviously slot it down for D, to the left for S, and up for R. And there is a little button on the back here that you need to press to go into the drive mode. You also have the start stop button here, and there is a lot of space inside the center console. First of all, the center console itself is quite wide, so you're sitting away from your passenger, so it's a wide cabin, which is very good. You have a wireless charging pad here, and there is also a removable shelf which can be used to cover this area. You can see obviously we're using that, so we're not using the shelf itself. And the actual storage bin is a reasonable size. It's not too big, not too small. You get nice USB-C and USB-A ports here, and of course you get the cigarette lighter socket for a faster charger if you like. So let's start it up. And as you can see, a multitude of lights, and then you get your instrument cluster, and we're greeted by a good morning message here. So this here is the infotainment screen. You can see that it's nicely logically laid out. You have navigation, you have slope assist, you have compass on there. If you press navigation, it obviously opens up the map along with a number of recent destinations, and it is quite satisfyingly high res, and the maps keep getting regular updates, so they're quite good in that sense. And you have options to toggle between 2D and 3D modes here. You also get wireless Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, etc. The usual draft of things. You also can see eco data, so as soon as you start the car, it will start looking at how you're driving, how fast you're accelerating, how abruptly you're braking, all those things, and then they go into this eco data and you can see your driving score. The higher it is, obviously the more efficiently you're driving. Now coming to the central screen, you can see that there are a number of ways you can choose to display stuff here. Obviously you've got the traditional speedometer and rev counter on the side, and you've got a nice large trip A summary in the center. But there are also options to change this. So you can go into the info panel, you can change the display layout from here, you can go to one dial, and then it only shows you one of the either the RPM or the speed, and then on the side you can get the map. So there are a number of ways you can configure this. So this is probably what I would probably keep it at. So you get the trip summary here, and in the center you get a digital speedometer along with a rev counter, and on the side you can get the maps. But remember that this will only work with the inbuilt navigation. It will not work if you're using Apple CarPlay and Google Maps. Then you have controls here for the cruise control, and on this side for toggling between various options on the instrument cluster, as well as controlling the infotainment system using the voice assistant, increasing volume, skipping tracks, etc. So if you look underneath, as expected, it's a very clean underbody, and it has plenty of ground clearance for all your off-road adventures. Really, this is top of the hill when it comes to 4x4s anyway. So now let's look at what's under the hood in this P300 version of the Defender 110. So you get gas struts as expected, and this is the new generation Land Rover Ingenium engine. It is a 2-liter engine that produces 300 horsepower. Now when it comes to driving the Defender, the P300 version, even though on paper it has 300 PS of power, there is still some amount of lag when you press the accelerator. So once you press the accelerator, especially in D mode, you will see that there is about half a second of lag before you get that surge that you need for overtaking. The first impression that you get is that the wheel is perhaps one size too large, which is again a nod to the predecessor's design. It may be to some people's liking, but if you're a sporty driver who likes to change direction fast, this may be just a gentle reminder that this is still a big tall SUV, even though it's a monocoque now, it's not a body on frame. Then on that note, there is very little body roll in this car, because when you take corners, the torque vectoring technology that is incorporated into the front and rear wheels, along with the loss of weight because of the monocoque chassis, means that there's very little body roll, and it's really sporty to drive around. Now, we drove the Defender for well over 500 kilometers on a variety of terrain. Needless to say, it never skipped a beat. But no drive of the Defender is complete without a test of its off-roading capability. After all, it goes all the way up to 290 mm of ground clearance at its highest off-road height setting. Just so you know, the standard ground clearance is 218 mm. That's nearly 3 inches higher. So we took the 6 Defenders in a convoy to a nearby trail on a tea estate in Munnar. And it was a particularly challenging trail with boulders the size of small hills in certain sections. For most of the trail, we kept the terrain response system in mud and rut setting and with off-road height selected. The speed for the hill descent control was set to its minimum and low range was engaged. This meant that the Defender trundled down at a very slow and controllable pace along the meandering track. When we came to a dry riverbed, it initially looked impassable. But selecting the rock crawl mode and careful maneuvering and tire placement with the help of a spotter meant that the cars were through the other side in no time. So where does all of this put the Defender in the Indian auto market context? It's a surprisingly difficult place to be actually, and that is largely due to it being a CBU import in India. That means that the Defender costs roughly twice as much here as it does in the UK. What that means is that it is vying for a section of buyers that are considering proper luxury SUVs. So it's up against, perhaps unfairly, the X7s and the GLSs of the automotive world. That's a shame because that segment of buyers is least likely to buy it for what it's capable for. It's not helped by the engine choices and their corresponding prices either. Assuming you were looking at the 5-door 110 models, the pick of the bunch would be the P400X model, which costs close to 1.5 crores. That means skipping the laggy 2.0 engined P300 HSE, which itself is not cheap at 1.1 crores. But this just exacerbates the problem. The Defender is being sold in India at prices that it simply cannot command. And all that means this will remain a niche vehicle, much like its stablemate the 7-seater Discovery, which never really took off in India and is now seldom seen or heard about, much like its earlier gen Discovery 4. But for those who know what the Defender truly represents, there's simply nothing else like it. And that is paying homage to a 70-year-old legacy and marrying it with everything that's modern and cutting edge in today's Land Rovers. This video is based on excerpts from a larger travel video about travel to Kerala in March 2023. If you're interested in watching that video, links in the description will take you to my vlogging channel as soon as that video goes live. Thanks for watching and please consider subscribing if you found this content useful. I will see you in the next one.